What's going on, guys? My name is Johnny, and in today's video I'm going to give you some criteria to help you figure out how to buy your first camera. So I've been there before. Buying your first camera is really exciting, but then it's also kind of nerve-wracking because there are so many different options. Questions like DSLR or mirrorless or Nikon, Canon, Sony, which brand do you get? And then on top of that, do you get a crop sensor or do you have to get a full frame? Well, I'm going to give you some criteria in order for you to follow, whatever applies to you, and then hopefully at the end of the video it'll help you narrow down your search. So the first criteria that you should follow, and arguably the most important, is going to be price. If you like a certain camera, it has all these features, but you can't afford it, it really doesn't matter. So pick your price, whether that's $500, $2,000, whatever the case may be, and then filter your results from there. The second criteria that you should follow is functionality. So if you're someone who's trying to get into photography or videography for the first time, and you're working on, say, like $1,000 budget, you have to realize that your camera's not going to shoot at 40 megapixels and shoot 4K at 120 frames per second and be under $1,000. You have to understand what functionality you need from your camera and that still fits within your budget. So for example, if you're trying to be a family photographer, you might not need a camera that's over 24 megapixels, and you might not need very good video. And if you're someone who's trying to be a videographer, for example, you might not need 4K footage. Nowadays, people still watch a lot of content on their phone, and even if you put it up on a TV, 1080p is still more than good enough. So find out what functionality you need and see if that still fits within your budget. My third criteria is prioritizing the lens over the body. So a lot of people will disagree with this statement, but generally speaking, the lens is what's going to determine the kind of shot you're going to get. So let me just give you an example before you start flaming me in the comments. If you're trying to be a family or portrait type of photographer, you might consider buying a 70 to 200 zoom lens. Obviously an f2.8 is going to be more expensive, so you might have to settle with an f4. Or even if you want to go to primes, getting like an 85mm prime and a 50mm prime, combining those is going to be much better than a nice body with a kit lens. That moves you on to tip number 4, which is don't be afraid to buy used gear. I know a lot of people are kind of sketched out, and you have every reason to be, right? There are people out there who try to sell you, old, used, and broken gear. But if you go to a reputable camera shop, you'll find really, really good deals, and you'll find people who work in that shop who have a lot of information that'll be able to help you out. So buying used gear from reputable people can really, really save you, especially if you're on a budget. I just did this recently. I bought a wide angle lens. It was a Tamron 15-30 f2.8, originally for $1,300, and I bought it from another photographer who sold it for half the price. He sold it for $650. The lens works perfectly. I use it for real estate. The shots are amazing, and it saved me $650. So be careful when you buy used stuff, but definitely consider it if you're on a budget. And then my final tip for you guys is if you're someone who gets gear hungry like I do, or you have buyer's remorse when the latest thing comes out, you're like, man, I should have waited. My biggest tip is work with what you have now. Buy what you need, and then as you start to hit your limits, then upgrade. It's not the gear that really makes it, it's the person behind the gear. The gear just helps you enable what's in your vision. So that's about it for my criteria, guys. I really hope that helped you out. This is just from my own experience. Your experience might differ, but I hope you learned something from this video, and I hope that helps you figure out what camera to get. If you like these type of videos, guys, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification if you want to stay informed, and if you have any other questions, make sure to leave it down in the comments, and I'll try to address it in a future video. See ya.